Welcome everyone to our webinar today with two prominent producers of Barolo. We're going to be talking about, we're going to focus on their new releases from the 2018 vintage, and in one case here, a 2016 Reserva. We will be talking with the always very positive and happy and smiling Tiziana Settimo from the Aurelio Settimo winery. Ciao, Tiziana.
Ciao, nice to meet you, everybody. Thanks.
And also from the Mauro Molino winery in Lamora, Matteo and Martina Molino.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Ciao.
Nice to see you again. We were just talking about, you see that picture in the background that with Tiziana is right there in the middle of Rocche dell'Annunziata. And I said, you know, I don't see any snow, and I've heard that from several people. I don't know if people watching understand this or know this, but you've had no snow since December 8th. Is that correct?
No. Yeah. It's 2 months. It's 2 months now. We are in a dry situation without snow, without rain. We hope so. For example, we left one in the vineyards. We left one file yes, one file no, with the ground broken. If rain or snow will arrive, so we could have the possibility to keep much more as we can in the vineyards. So right now is not a big problem, but we will see turning to springtime what will happen.
Okay.
It's really dry, yes. And
yeah.
I'm in the middle, I'm working in Rocche dell'Annunziata today. I'm not only on a webinar, I'm working in Rocche dell'Annunziata.
Okay, always working, okay. Yeah, well, I had one producer in Barbaresco tell me, he said, oh, you're in Chicago, right? And I said, yes. He said, please send us some of your snow, because we need it. So, Matteo and Martina, have you seen anything like this in recent years, or?
No, it's actually very exceptional, I think. So it's really, we really need the water into the vineyard. So like 2 months, as Tiziana said, is very strange.
Well, yeah, we
go ahead.
We expected rain and or snow yesterday. I mean, the forecast for 2 weeks, seeing snow for yesterday, but at the end was nothing. So. Yeah, we need some water, of course. The soil and the vineyard really need water.
Well,
I believe talking about the past, as I'm older than Matteo and Martina. I believe it's something. It happened between 1989 and 90. We had the same problems of winter so dry, without snow, without. I remember that probably, yeah, it's since 1989, in between 1989 and 90, I didn't see.
Okay.
So 2 months without absolutely humidity from rain or snow.
Right. Well, I know, having been there so many times, dying to get back, but very soon. But in talking with producers, is that, you know, over the course of certain years, you can withstand maybe a year or two of drought. So what was last year like, 2021?
Yeah, was dry too, but last year was we got a little bit rain. And it was cold in April last year, in 2021. In April we got that frost in the plain. So for us was not frost in our Middle Hills, but was cold wind. So this changed a little bit, but the vintage was great in 2021. Will be again a really great vintage.
I talked with a few other producers last year, and they said, and we're going to spend a lot of time with 18 now, but they said, you know, and that they said 19, 20, and 21, what they're calling this triumvirate of great vintages. I mean, I've had some 19 Barbaresco already that are very powerful wines. So
strong body. Yeah, a little bit probably due to the dry bunches, a little bit less in quantity, Personally, I got a little bit hail in 2021 in July, but was an early hail, so the damage was not in quality, but was simply in quantity. I will get in 2021 around 25% less in quantity on our Nebbiolo. Yeah.
Matteo, Martina,
beginning.
what was last year like for you, 2021?
2021 for us was a really, really great vintage. Honestly, we were very, very happy about the quality. We have to say that 19, 20, and 21 were three magic vintages in the area. And of course, the quantity for Nebbiolo, like Tiziana said, was a little bit smaller than the normal, but the quality was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah.
And I think we were very lucky to have a lot of rain and water during the springtime, and it helps a lot for the reserve. For the summer, it was quite hot and warm, but it was very, very important to have this reserve for the Nebbiolo, especially because the quality and also the balance of 2021 for Nebbiolo was exceptional.
Yeah.
Great. One comment, it's we can see you beautifully, but all of a sudden this heavenly light has entered the
Sorry.
your screen. So that's better.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Okay. So we move over. So.
That's fine. I mean, it looked okay before, but it was just that the sunlight was so strong.
It's a very sunny day. Yeah, that's right.
And I'm just going to mention this because I think it's important. But I talked about this with Tiziana for a few minutes before we started. But in America here, one of the major networks, CBS, has a program called 60 Minutes. And I don't know if you heard about this, but this past Sunday they had a very important report about climate change and about wine regions, and they opened this up with Champagne in 2021, which was a terrible vintage, and they had a lot of rain, and it just was almost completely wiped out. So that was true, and their report was very good, but they only told a certain part of the story. And one of the things they said was that it's not just in Champagne, it's in Italy too. They said in 2017, this big heat wave hit central and northern Italy, and they said this is where Brunello and in northern Italy where Barolo is made, and that's all they said. And if you're a consumer and you hear that, you're like, oh my goodness, the 2017 red wines, the Barolos are probably not going to be very good, or maybe this is just a trend of things to come. And you can understand that they're broadcasting to the public, not to wine lovers per se. But I just think that they left out some information. Tiziana was saying how much, that they had to do a little bit different in 2017, but she loves her wines. So what are your thoughts on 2017, Matteo?
Yeah.
So actually 2017, it is true. So it's been like a warm climate vintage for our area. But then what was very important was like the period just right before the harvest time, where the temperature cool off a little bit, so start to have a better switch of temperature between day and night. This is something that we are seeing more and more is becoming very important in the last vintages, no? Because we are seeing obviously the climate changing is affecting also our area quite a bit, and like the cools off like in the middle of August, end of August, until the time of picking the grape is becoming very important, especially for the aromaticity of the wine. Also, what we are seeing, I think, is going to be like the challenge of us, no, of the new generation, because we are seeing more and more like this climate changing is affecting the area. And it's something that also me and Matteo, we are thinking about like every day when we are talking to each other, no? How we can do to interpret this new type of climate that so there is nothing that we can do on that. So we just need to adapt in some way. And the best thing is obviously we think to work more and more in a better way into the vineyards. So if it's something like the vineyard was a practical that was very shift between the time. So something very irregular right now is not like that anymore. So you need to just adjust to the weather like day by day. And it's way more work into the vineyards.
Of course.
Then, then we need to try to use also different methods into the vineyards, no? Such as what we are doing for some years now is, for example, like the cover crop in the majority of our vineyards, in order to have a cooler soil as well. So this is going to be a big thing to think about it for the future, and it's something that I think we can agree we can prevent only from the vineyard side. So I don't know, Matteo.
This is very important. Yeah, it's something that we saw every day. That this change, I think, since 2015, this change was much faster than in the past.
Yeah.
The trend is in a big change, and we are very lucky, just to finish, to have a soil with a lot of calcareous inside. I mean, soil that keep a lot the water. That's very important for our soil. Maintain the reserve, the hydric reserve for the summer.
That's an excellent point. I think 60 Minutes should have talked to all three of you, and it would have given the viewers a little more understanding, because they kind of left it with that, well, you know, there's this big heat wave in northern Italy, and that's where they make Barolo, and that's all they had to say. And they didn't say that, well, you know, first of all, the wines turned out just fine in 2017. They're not the longest lived wines, but you know, but like you said, you're working in the vineyards, you're doing different things, you're adapting, and you make the best wine you can. And then, since we're focusing on 18 today, we'll move right into 18, but it's like completely different weather, right, Tiziana?
Yeah, 18 was a vintage that was so different from 17, because we got a long winter with plenty of rainfall that restored the soil's water supply we needed after 17 hot summer and dry summer. The winter season then extended until the beginning of March, with the temperatures that were lower than in the recent years. Even the development in summertime was really gradual, and meantime the temperatures rises considerably only from mid-July. But anyway, this development was slowly. So this gave to us the possibility to arrive to the harvest moment that was for us. I'm talking about my vineyards. Why I say my vineyards? Because with Rocche dell'Annunziata, we are in a fully southwestern exposure. So an exposure that is totally to sunshine. It gave to us to arrive to the ripeness of the grapes, but not with extreme temperatures. So slowly, and a very nice acidities that gave to us these aromatic properties of the grapes. So 2018, if we are talking about agronomic processes, for example, we needed in springtime to clean much more the leaves on the grapes, while in a hot climatic condition as 17, I totally agree with Martina and Matteo, we need really to clean less and to leave the grass on the soil to protect the soil. But meantime, even if a storm or a heavy rain is coming, to avoid that the soil on the surface will slip off, because this is another problem. For example, for me in Rocche dell'Annunziata is totally different. So you have now in the middle, there's this little road. At your left side is the southeasterly exposure, from which we are producing the Classico Barolo, and from the younger vineyards, the Nebbiolo. Right side is this vineyard, the right side to the little road is part of Rocche dell'Annunziata. So it's in terms of airline is nothing. These are really close, but one has a southeastern exposure, is top of a hill. Rocche dell'Annunziata is south-southwestern exposure, and from the top of the hill, that is 320 meters on the sea level, we are going down in the rest of 3 hectares that are 270 meters on the sea level. So Rocche dell'Annunziata is much more in a microclimate that is much more hot than the top of the hill on the southeastern exposure. So we need really to work in another way. The agronomic processes, I totally agree with you, with Matteo and Martina, that the agronomic processes are, first of all, the first thing that we need to do in the different climatic conditions we can get. From 17, 18, 19, for example, the agronomic processes were totally different.
Okay.
But really lucky and really happy. I'm really happy about our 18. I believe 18 vintage will be a Barolo, really easy to drink sooner than other vintages. It has a lot of freshness, a lot of fruit. So this will be probably Barolo, not to storage 30, 40 years. So long
Okay.
as a 16, a 19, a 20, 21. But I really find my 18 close to my 2008, for example.
Which is an outstanding vintage and very
Yeah.
Piemontese vintage. So
Yeah.
Martina and Matteo will talk about your wine too. Tell us about 18 in general, about that year, about the growing season.
Yeah, so like Tiziana said before, 18 we can include 18 in a quite cool and little classic vintage. So the winter started with a very good amount of snow, and this was extremely important after 17 because all the previous year were very dry. So also the spring was very rainy and very cool temperature. So we can say that all the growing season was very mild. The summer, I checked some notes, and the temperature in June and July was very mild, 23, 24, 26 degree medium. And I mean, all this balance that the weather had during the summer, I think we will find in the wine, because also the autumn was very mild and beautiful, without too hot and too rain. Also, the rain moment was more concentrated during February, March, April, and May. I mean, the springtime was very rainy. It was maybe a little bit difficult in the vineyard, the work at the beginning part of the work, but at the end, the quality of the grape was extremely balanced. And what we find in 18, I mean, the first part of the year is the moment where we taste personally more, the new vintage, and we really find this purity, this elegance, this balance in 18 that is also very representative of La Morra. I mean, for our terroir, for our soil, for our identity as La Morrese, we personally find in 18 a very good personality for La Morra Barolo.
Okay, we're going to talk about 3 of your single vineyard wines today, and 2 of them are located vineyards in Annunziata. And your neighbor Pietro Ratti, whenever I talk to him about Annunziata, he says, well, the typical La Morra Barolo is one of elegance, and he says, but you can even kind of increase that, or take elegance to the next level when you talk about Annunziata. He finds that the Annunziata wines are even more elegant than just a typical La Morra. Is that something you would agree with?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and in 2018, when were the harvests? Was this a more typical harvest when you started the harvest for Nebbiolo?
So for Nebbiolo, we started in the 6th of October personally, and we finished it everything about the 10th of October.
So that's more, yeah, more like it used to be.
Exactly, it's more classic as well from
exactly.
that point. Yes, because I mean we are invested in the 6th Bricolucciani and Conca that are always our single vineyards that we harvest first, and then we ended up with Gallinotto and La Serra on the 10th.
Okay.
So yeah,
and
very classic from there too.
Okay, you produce, is it 5 Barolo?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. There's
you have
a classic. Okay.
Bricolucciani, La Serra, and Conca, yes. So
okay.
five Barolos, and 4 of the single vineyards are in the La Morra area. So yeah, really La Morrese.
All right. I'm always curious, is the winery itself, is it considered Annunziata or is it La Morra, the winery building itself?
Is in Annunziata, our wine.
That's what I thought. Okay. Yeah. Well, let's talk about the wines. I tried 3 of them. We'll start off. I'll put up a photo here of Bricolucciani, which is an Annunziata. We get a shot of the vineyard here.
Yeah.
Tell us about this vineyard and about the wine, 2018.
Sure. So Bricolucciani, as you can see from the picture, it's just in front of our property. So for us, Bricolucciani is one of the most historical single vineyard that we produce. In fact, our grandfather, Father Giuseppe, when bought the property in the 50s, early 50s, was together with Bricolucciani in Conca, was part of the property itself. So for us, Bricolucciani is a great expression of Barolo from La Morra area. Because as you can slightly see, the soil is quite white and calcareous, very typical from Annunziata, with a little bit of sandy soil inside, about 20% of sands in the soil. This is a very tiny vineyard, is less than a hectare size, and is a southeast facing vineyard. As we were talking before about the climate change, what we are seeing also more in the last years is that actually this vineyard Bricolucciani is taking quite a bit of benefit from that climate change, because the southeastern exposure are the ones that are less borne by the sun from the afternoon, more from the one from the morning. So they keep a little bit more freshness and elegance inside. So we are quite satisfied with the results of Bricolucciani in the last years. And so the vineyard itself, as I said, is very, very small. What we are seeing in the 2018 vintage for Bricolucciani is again one of the things that is the most important for this vintage, that is the purity of the wine. No? So there is like a very nice Nebbiolo purity and classicism in the 18, and it's something that we personally appreciate a lot. And also, as Tiziana said before, so the Barolos in 18, and we can see it also in the Bricolucciani, I think are very, very gentle, very suitable at the moment, with a very refined tannin and profile. And I mean, we speak obviously as a La Morra producer, but I think really the La Morra took a lot of advantage of the 2018 vintage. So I think it is a vintage that is expressing very well in that part of the Barolo area.
Right. And what was the first vintage of Bricolucciani for you?
So was the 1989.
Okay. And I see on the website you make a little more than 4,000 bottles a year. Is that correct?
Correct. 4,400. Yeah. So
okay.
It's very small. Yes.
All right. Let's move on now to another of your vineyards, which is, I think I remember walking down with you, Matteo, right from the winery down to see Conca.
Yeah, so
very famous vineyard.
Conca was was bought by our grandfather in 1953, and Conca and Rocche were planted the same year. So we were planted in 1871 as 51 years old. Conca represents one of the smallest single vineyard of the La Morra commune and the Barolo. The total size is a little bit more than 2 hectares, and our side is 0.5 hectares. So we make 3,000 bottles of this wine. And as you can see from the picture, Conca means amphitheater. It's like a shell.
Right.
So it's a natural amphitheater, very, very protective from the village of Annunziata on the top of the hill. And I mean, it's normally a vineyard that makes Barolo with very good richness, very good complexity, and quite full Barolo. I mean, it is maybe the less Lamorrese single vineyard we honestly make. Also because for the exposition, but also for the soil. You have to imagine that between Bricolucciani and Conca, that are 200 meters far, there are a difference of 10-12% of sandy. I mean, Bricolucciani has more sandy than Conca. So normally Bricolucciani is the gentle side of the hill, and Conca is more the richest, the complex, the long aging potential Barolo that we make.
Well, I tasted this earlier, and I found this, as Martina described it, a very elegant vintage, a very elegant wine, excuse me. And many of the 2018s I've tried so far, and I've talked with other producers, they're talking about 2018 being a very Burgundian vintage.
Yeah,
it's not going to be like 19, 20, 21, or 16, which need, like Tiziana said, 15, 20, 30 years to lay away. But these are very approachable wines. Obviously, they'll hold for 15 years. But this, of the three that I tried, was the most Burgundian, and I think that's another thing that you can emphasize as well with 2018 is how that La Morra elegance really comes out in these wines.
Yeah, we personally recognize this too. I mean, when we tasted at the beginning, so wow, it looks very, very Burgundy, in the style, in the purity, in the tension.
This was the most floral of the three that I tried. I'm looking at my notes, and I had down red roses, and there's also things like strawberry and Marasca cherry, and very, very bright, lifted aromatics. So beautiful wine. And yes, it's a little richer, more complex than the Luciani, but it's almost a little more approachable now because it's so finely tuned. Really lovely wine. Complimente.
Grazie.
Okay. All right, let's move on. And these are both, so people know, we're going to get to Rocche dell'Annunziata in a minute, at Tiziana. These are both a little bit east of Rocche dell'Annunziata, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's move out of Annunziata and let's go to La Serra.
Yes, La Serra. So La Serra is
here, and this is just above Brunate, correct?
Correct. Yes, we are in the higher part of La Morra. So we go from Annunziata, from where Bricolucciani is located, to the higher part of La Morra. So La Serra, for us, is the newest, of the single vineyards that we produce, because the first vintage for La Serra for us was 2010. Is a completely different style of Barolo that we make. In fact, at the beginning, it took us some time also for understand the diversity of these vineyards, because as you can see from the picture, what changed in this case is the elevation. So we are going higher up to 380 meters altitude. So the elevation is quite high. But at the same time, as you can also see from the picture, we get quite a good protection from the surrounding hills. So there is this elevation that impact, but at the same time, the climate is a little bit warmer due to the other vineyards that protect La Serra. And that's also the reason why La Serra is probably the less Lamorrese style Barolo that we make, no? So tend to be much more robust and with more tension and complexity. This is really the DNA of the vineyard itself. Also, if you try La Serra from other producer, this vineyard have such a distinctive sign in itself. So our part of the vineyard is extremely small. It's actually the smallest among the four single vineyard Barolos that we make.
Okay.
We produce 2,700 bottles per year, and we are talking about a very old vineyard, so it's about 52 years old plants. And again, a completely different world. So it's beautiful actually to be a producer in La Morra, because it's also the biggest municipality where we can make Barolo. And the diversity from one vineyard to the others is very, very high. So it's incredible how different they are showing.
Yeah, for this, some of the notes I had a note of pine in the aromas, which is to me unusual for Barolo, and a little bit of oregano, and of course some balsamic. But yeah, this is not as charming a wine right now as the Conca, but it definitely is a big, not powerful, but a big, more tannic style of Barolo is going to need a little more time. And La Serra is, I think most people watching know, in Italian means greenhouse. So since it's so high up on that hill, the hill of Bernate and Cerrecchio, you get that greenhouse effect. You get a lot of ripening, a lot of exposure to the sun. So tell me very briefly too, because we'll switch back to Tiziana in a minute here, but
yeah,
you have different philosophies about how you age your wine. So how do you, what your work in the cellar, what sort of oak do you use?
In my cellar?
Matteo.
Yeah.
Matteo.
Sorry.
I couldn't understand if the question was for me or for you. Sorry.
And I was drinking the wine. So.
Our father started wine in 1882. So we normally for our single vineyard we tend to use smaller wood. For example, for Luciani, the age is normally 1 year and a half, is 10 months in a big barrel, but French oak, and 8 months in small barrique. And more or less is the same also for the other single vineyard. About the maceration, we normally do 2 weeks maceration. Since 2018, we changed a little bit for La Serra and Conca, because started to try the maceration in troncoconic wood barrel. Okay. And I mean, we like it, the result, and we continue with this single vineyard. We hope to try to also to do the same with Bricco Luciani, but it's something that need a lot of time and a lot of a lot of tasting and attention. So at the moment we stop with these 2 single vineyard for this maceration, and yeah, that's it. And after the wood, we use more French oak also for big barrel.
And what percentage is new oak?
Our big barrel are we use for 15 years, the big barrels, and the small one is 10% new, something like that.
Okay, not much at all. And last question: are the wines, have you released them yet, or when will they be released? 2018.
They are released. Yeah, all of them.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Great. Tiziana, grazie per la pazienza.
No, don't worry. I'm here with a glass of Barolo, so don't worry.
I better get my glass as well. So
I was really relaxed with the glass of Barolo. I was really relaxed.
Yeah. I have the La Serra here from Matteo Martina, so 2018. Let's talk about, I tried 3 Barolo from you, new releases. First, your classic Barolo from 2018. Tiziana, tell us about that.
Yeah. So as I told you before with the previous photo where there was the top of the hill, so our classic Barolo is produced on the southeasterly exposure, where the ground, the soil is clay, but as for Bricco Luciani, Bricco Manzoni, for Molino is a little bit sandy. So difference, the soil is really different from Rocche dell'Annunziata, that is clay, but in depth has this blue marl that is a stratificated soil of marine origin that is giving to us wines in Rocche dell'Annunziata that are much more floral and even stronger body than the Classico, than the Southeastern, where the Barolo, our Classico Barolo, is much more showing the fruit, showing the aromatic properties of the grapes, while in Rocche dell'Annunziata is much more floral, much more roses, that is typical for the soil of Rocche dell'Annunziata. So for us, normally, the Classico Barolo is always the Barolo ready to drink before the Rocche dell'Annunziata. Right. That's the reason that we do the Riserva only on Rocche dell'Annunziata facing vineyards, and the Riserva only, Rocche dell'Annunziata only from the older vineyards we own, that are vineyards older than 40 years now, till almost 50. But so the southeastern exposure for the Classico as a total extension is the top of the hill back to the cellar, and as a total extension of 2 hectares and 25. Okay. So that could be a production of 14,000 bottles. We never arrived to that quantity, first of all, because even in these 2 hectares and 25 for the Classico, we have 7 different parcels, vineyards planted in different moments, replanted in different moments, from the younger now replanted in 2014 till the older now almost 60 years old, because we have a vineyard there that was replanted in 1961. So 61 years this year. Yeah. Wow. Time is running. It's difficult for me to follow every year the age of the vineyards. Yeah. So we normally it's a lower production. So we are a little bit atypical because we have a lower production of the Classico than the Rocche dell'Annunziata. Because for us, the MGA, the Cru, Rocche dell'Annunziata is bigger extension. Right. We own in Rocche dell'Annunziata almost 3 hectares and a half. That's a lot. So yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Yes, it's exactly 3 hectares, 0.42. On the 30 hectares, that is the total surface of Rocche dell'Annunziata, means that 10% of this MGA is in our hand. Wow. And it's nothing done from me or from my sons. So I always tell to my sons, we need to thank our roots. So my grandparents and my parents, that in between 40s and 60s, when almost anybody were talking about cruise in our wine region, they understood that these slopes were very good soil, were very good ground and exposure to grow Nebbiolo for Barolo. So we need simply to thank them. We did nothing, and now we could not do nothing anymore, because there's no movement of the ground. So the whole Rocche dell'Annunziata now is in hand of wineries. So there are not anymore wine growers selling their grapes.
Right, things have changed quite a bit in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
And in the cellar, you're very
a lot.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're a very traditional producer. So tell us about your cellar techniques, about the oak.
Yeah, I always maintained my father's philosophy, maintaining a traditional vinification and aging. So I do the maceration in steel tanks. Okay, I changed personally. I changed a little bit the maceration, so not so long as in the past. First of all, because I'm looking for powerful in my Barolos, but even in the elegance. So I don't like tannins when too bitter or too dry. So normally the maceration for us, it depends, depending from vintage to vintage. For example, for 18 was a little bit shorter than 16 or 8 or 19, because I did the 12 days maceration. And then we do the malolectic fermentation in concrete tanks, and then in oak, that is medium traditional size, so in between 2,500 liters up a maximum 3,500 liters, not bigger but not smaller too. The oak changed too, because in the past my father was using much more Slavonia oak. I'm now aging our Barolo in French oak, using Allier, Nevers, and in the last 4 years I tried some Austrian oak in the kind of Weidling and Manasberg. So Weidling is closer to Allier because the smaller grains, smaller pores. The tannins in the first passages are really much more elegant, not so strong as Nevers, that is closer to Slavonia. But this is what we are doing. So we maintained a traditional way, yes, for our Barolo.
But people hear Allier and they think Barrique, but this is all again big oak, large cask.
Sorry?
People hear the term Allier and they think Barrique, but you're not using.
But always big cask, always.
Cask.
Yeah, right. The minimum is 2,500 liters.
Okay.
So okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You use a little bit of new wood with the classic Barolo, is that correct? Small percentage of new. You use a small percentage of new oak with the classic?
No.
Nothing.
No.
Okay.
So in the old, so the big cask, we redo. So we re-clean the big cask, the big barrels every 3-4 years. So when there are not we, but there are companies that are doing that.
Right.
They come back again on wood, on oak, cleaning a little bit, so 2-3 millimeters inside, and so it's as new, and it's something that we can do no more than 3-4 times in 15-16 years. So then we change.
Okay. All right. Tell us then about your Rocche dell'Annunziata.
Rocche dell'Annunziata, as I told you before, the soil is totally different because it's clay, but in depth is this blue marl that is a soil that is not absorbing water. So it's really dry soil that is giving to us normally a Barolo that is much more floral than the classical. And normally is even the stronger body, so that's the Barolo for us, the Rocche dell'Annunziata, to age longer than the Classico. Classico is normally, so this is this vineyard in front of La Morra is the vineyard that we have close to the cellar, that is even the higher Rocche dell'Annunziata we own, is a vineyard 5,000 square meters, so half an hectare. It is even the higher because it's 320 meters. The rest of Rocche dell'Annunziata, so 3 hectares, are in the lower part, so exactly 50 meters lower, 270 meters, and is in the middle hill of Rocche dell'Annunziata, in the exposure south-southwest.
Okay. Well, this
so
one, go ahead.
Yeah. Even in Rocche dell'Annunziata, on this 3 hectares and a half, we have 13 different parcels, vineyards, replanted in different moments. The younger replanted in 2014, and even in Rocche dell'Annunziata, we are until 50 years old, the oldest that we have in Rocche dell'Annunziata. Okay. So we separate. Clearly, we cannot vinificate the whole Rocche dell'Annunziata together because we don't have the tanks to vinificate all together. So normally in Rocche dell'Annunziata we have minimum 3 lots of vinification, but even of aging that are different, coming from different vineyards, even different aging, and the Riserva is selected on the older vineyards more than 40 years old.
Okay, and again, large oak. And is there any new
Always large oak, always minimum 2,500 liters and the maximum of 3,500.
And is any percentage of that for the Rocca dell'Annunziata? Is there any new wood?
For example, for this 18 Rocca dell'Annunziata, this was the first passage we did in this new oak that was from Austria, from Weidling. Yeah, and the result, I really love the result. So I believe I will continue to mix and to have both French oak and both Austrian oak. This kind of Austrian oak I really loved.
Okay, and then we'll finish up with your 2016 Reserva.
16 Reserva. Now I showed
everybody
Barolo.
watching is an amazing wine. You have to get a bottle of this, or have to get 3 bottles of this. I'm sorry. You can try them over the course of 10 years. It's the one that lasts 30, 40 years. Amazing wine.
Okay, we talk about even in previous webinars, we did together, we talk really a lot about 16 vintage.
Right.
If my father will be still here with us, this was a vintage that really didn't give to us any troubles. In talking about the climate, it was a little bit mild winter than normal. So till February, it was not raining or snowing, but then from February till March, we got a good rainfall that restored the water supply that we needed. And meantime, the temperatures dropped in late springtime. So there was a development, a phenological delay. So the development was slower than other recent years. Then we arrived in summertime, slower. It was hot, but not extreme. So we arrived really at the moment of harvest that for us was beginning first week October, starting with the Rocca dell'Annunziata. That is always the first, these are the first vineyards we are picking up due to that sunshine and southwestern exposure. Very nice alcohol, but not extreme, very nice acidity. So we arrived, as we talked before, we arrived at the moment of harvest with a really very nice weather, climatic conditions. That is what Nebbiolo wanna. Hot during the day, cooler during the night. So this was a really unbelievable vintage. And in these great vintages, because we don't produce every year our Reserva, but only in the great vintages and when we find the right grapes from the older vineyards. So this is a really small production because 2,800 liters, a little bit more than 3,000 bottles. And then for the Reserva, as for the Rocca dell'Annunziata, we are bottling even magnums and double magnums, 3 liters. Okay. So for the Reserva, a little bit less than 200 magnums, 1.5 liters, and some 3 liters. But the 3 liters is really something really small quantities, 30, 50, 53 liters, no more.
And how do you select the grapes fruit for the Reserva Rocca? Is it the oldest vine? Is it the best grapes?
Always from these older vineyards, and when we find the grapes that we love. So these vineyards are giving to us normally a production no more than 2-3 grapes per plant sometimes. And this was the situation of 16. Moreover, in 16, we got ale in late July. It was July 26. We got ale, so we had a reduction of our production around 20% less in some vineyards, particularly on the Classico and not on the Rocca dell'Annunziata. Yeah.
And the previous Reserva, I think from you was 2012, is that correct?
Yes, the previous one was 2012, and the next one will be 2019, Reserva Rocca dell'Annunziata.
And how do you compare 2012 with 2016?
12 was, so even considering the climatic conditions, was a wine that was much more mature, much more ready before than the 16. So
Okay.
for me, this 16 now, okay, just bottled will be a wine that will need minimum another 3-4 years before to begin. 12 was a little bit much more mature.
Okay,
I have a noise on the
there's
back.
little feedback. That's
Yeah.
okay, because that's not annoying. I got a comment from one person watching, and they wanted to know a little more about why you've selected Austrian oak, and why would you do that instead of Slavonian oak?
Sorry?
One of the people watching wanted to know a little bit more about why you selected Austrian oak instead of Slavonian oak.
This was a curiosity. So we tried some wines of our colleagues here in the region that they were working with that supplier. I loved the result, and so this was my curiosity to try something different and to see what was happening with the different oak. The supplier is a really serious supplier, so they went before to see where we needed to put the barrel. They went themselves to pick up the measures to see if so, and they come back 3 times to try the wines. We put now 3 vintages. We put now in that barrels. So they are producing. So I believe this was simply a question to see and to try something different. So that's the reason we bought the 3 barrels, 25 hectoliters, so 2,500 liters. I tried 2 Manasberg and 1 Weidling. I believe I will go ahead with the Weidling much more than Manasberg, because I really love the Weidling results. That is closer to Allier, really closer.
Okay.
But was simply a curiosity to try something and change something.
Matteo, Martina, do you produce any Reserva Barolo?
Not at the moment. I mean, to be honest, we will have a new Barolo 2016 too that we will release in the autumn, we think, and it will not be Reserva, but will be the anniversario, because this year 2022 is the 40th vintage of our estate. We started in 82. So in 16, that was really an amazing vintage. We selected a very small, very old and small parcel in our property here in Annunziata, and decided to make 1,000 bottles of this Barolo Anniversario, aged for a couple of years in 10 hectoliters cash.
Right.
And I mean, it's now a couple of years is in bottle, and we will release very soon. I mean, but yeah, we are quite happy about the result, and we will send you a bottle just to taste.
Oh, thank you. And you said again, this is 2016 vintage?
16, yes,
Okay.
yes.
And how many bottles did you produce?
Sorry?
How many bottles?
It's not enough. It's not enough 1 bottle to try. You need to do a fiesta, and we will celebrate together, because for us 22 will be the 60 years of Aurelio Settimo's label.
Oh,
So
okay.
I wanted to do a big fiesta if COVID will permit us, and we could do a fiesta together. Why not?
Yeah.
But you must bring more than 1 bottle.
We will.
At least 2 or 3.
The
There might be a bad bottle somewhere. You never know. So.
The production is very, very small. It's only 1,000 bottles.
Okay. And when will that be released?
In autumn.
Okay.
In autumn.
And we have like just a few minutes left, but we'll start with you, Matteo, Martina, and then finish up with Tiziana. But we covered 2018, 2016, and several producers such as I mentioned before, Pietro Ratti and Stefano Chiarlo, they're just enthusiastic about 2019, 2020, and 2021. So what can we expect from those three vintages with Barolo?
Stronger body, first of all, for me. So for my wines, so the result that I saw, but I believe is for everybody, that the elegance and the fruit, the aromatic properties we got in 18, surely 19, 20, 21 will be stronger vintages, stronger body. So vintages to storage really longer, probably will be even vintages that we need a little bit more time than 18. So we need to wait a little bit longer, but these will be really three great vintages. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can totally agree with what Tiziana said. So there's going to be three very beautiful vintages in a row with more structure, more complexity. But what I want also to say, we don't need to forget also about the beauty of 18, of the classic of vintage, you know. So it's a very diverse profile, but as we said during the webinar, and thanks a lot for setting this up, Tom, is that the Lamorrese Barolo in 18 performing very well, and we are so happy to do this chat also with Tiziana, because we are very, very close to each other, and it's nice to
we did that.
Okay. Well,
no, really, yeah. I believe yes, and 18 is really nice now. So you tried 18, 2018 now, Tom, and I believe you saw immediately with the 18 you tested, you tried, that this will be a vintage really easy to drink in the first year's bottling. But it will be anyway not a Barolo to waste if you keep it 10, 15 years, absolutely. But what it's really important is that normally our Barolo, so speaking about La Morra, but particularly Annunziata, are Barolo that have this elegance. They are complex, yes, they have body, but meantime there's this elegance that is really giving totally different Barolos compared to other subzones or to other MGA.
Right. Well, I think.
But I'm happy about 18. I really love 18.
Yeah. Well, tasting your two 18s and then tasting the three, single vineyards from Molino. I mean, you really get the difference. The differences in these sites and these MGA really are communicated very well in these wines. Every year is like that, but especially in a year like 18, where that's a little more approachable right now. So lovely vintage. So thank you for this. I've got my fingers crossed that you're going to get a little bit of snow and some rain and some normal weather. Normally I wouldn't ask for that, but anyway, so
send some from Chicago, Tom.
we haven't had that much, but we're supposed to get a little bit more tomorrow. Well, I'll see what I can do. Okay, but the way FedEx and UPS work, it's like it's going to melt by the time we get there. So I'll try. So thank you again. Okay.
Thanks everybody. Ciao, Martina. Ciao, Matteo. Ciao, Tom. Thanks.
Ciao, guys.